Is it a Christmas song?
Here we go.
Hey, what's up, guys? We are here in the middle of what is, Sean, I think, one of the most wonderful times of the year. NCAA March Madness. The brackets are out, baby. We love it. We love it. Sean Robertson, CBS 6 Sports anchor here with us. We just wanted to take a look at the brackets real quick, have a chat with you guys about kind of what we were feeling about it, especially what Sean's feeling about it, because he's seen some of these teams, a lot of these teams, play in person this year, and give you a look at the Virginia schools that are in the Big Dance March Madness, baby.
Record tying 5 schools from the state are going to the NCAA tournament this year. That happened back in 2011 when 5 of them. In those 5, only 2, if I recall correctly, are in this year's field and in the 2011 field.
See, folks, that's why you pay him the big bucks for the big suit, because he brings you stats like that. Sean Robertson, all on top of it. Okay, let's look at the bracket. So move to the East region. Obviously, here in Richmond, VCU always draws a crowd. They got to travel a little bit to get to their game, playing Central Florida. I wonder what you think about that matchup, and if they can be successful, what's lurking in the distance.
Well, number one, for the fans that follow VCU, you've got to be thrilled. It's only a 6-hour drive if you're from Richmond to Columbia. Mm-hmm. It's the first time since 2013 that VCU will play a tournament game in an Eastern time zone. That happened in Michigan when they beat Akron and lost to Michigan. They've been either Central time zone or Mountain time zone or West Coast time zones every year after that, except for this year. So
it's a little bit of drive, but you don't have to lose any sleep.
Fans are excited about that. The players are excited about that. Deontay Jenkins, one of the players on the team, he is a South Carolinian. He will return home. We talked to him a little bit about that during the media session today. So he's happy about that. Mike Rose is over the moon about it. Very emotional when I talked to him about the experience he had as an assistant with VCU, because he was on the 11 Final Four team. He was on 2012 and 2013, but this is his first year leading VCU as the head coach. He got very emotional about that. You will hear that on the Feel Good edition tonight at 11 o'clock. It's, to me, a good matchup. Not only, I said, for the fans, it's a good matchup on the court. Marcus Evans should return from the hyperextension on his knee.
That talked about that today, Rose?
Rose said there's no structural damage. That was reported Saturday. We reported that as well. No structural damage. He was working out Saturday even after that, and also he did some light shooting today. They hope he should be a go for Friday against UCF, who has one of the tallest players in the country. Taco Falls, 7'6", from Senegal. He is their starting center. Also, Johnny Dawkins, the former the head coach at UCF, formerly at Stanford, also played at Duke. His son is on this year's team, who plays guard. So that'll be an interesting matchup as well. So Marcus Evans could see Johnny Dawkins' son on the floor Friday night, right past 9:30. And we were told that game will be on CBS at 9:30. We'll follow the Duke game, so we'll have both night session games from Columbia here on CBS, starting with Duke against either North Carolina Central or North Dakota State. That's a play-in game.
Probably going to be Duke.
Probably.
No offense to the Final Four.
Well, that's the first round matchup. So Duke will play the winner of either North Carolina Central or North Dakota State, and then VCU and University of Central Florida. That will be the night game, and you will see it on CBS.
Rhodes and the Rams are not going to get ahead of themselves. I know this, but everybody's thinking, looking off into the distance, of maybe if they get that win against UCF, how do they match up against maybe Duke, Zion, Barrett, Reddish, all those guys, those incredible freshmen?
If you want that David-Goliath matchup, and we're going to hear that because of what Duke has done this year when Zion is healthy. And he showed that in the ACC tournament when he was named,
firsthand.
When he was named tournament outstanding player. Over 30 points a game, dominated when he was on the floor. Barrett, Reddish, Jones, those guys phenomenal this year. So a lot of people are picking Duke to cut the nets in Minneapolis, but there is a roadblock if VCU gets past UCF. They would meet in the second round in Columbia, basically Duke's backyard. That would be a Sunday matchup, but we cross our fingers that too would be on CBS if they both win.
Seem to remember 2011, VCU had a couple successes against teams that they thought might be a little bit better than them, have a little more NBA players than them.
USC, Georgetown,
Kansas,
Purdue, Florida State, and Kansas were the 5 wins. And then road to the Final Four.
Crossing our fingers for another run. Just down the bracket from there, Liberty and Mississippi State, an SEC team. I watched Mississippi State play a couple times. I got some NBA bodies on that team, some NBA talented players. But Liberty had an incredible year.
Great run through the Atlantic Sun, their first year in the Atlantic Sun. They've got some local connections on this team. Richie McKay, the head coach, was the assistant with Tony Bennett at UVA. Kevin Anderson, a lot of guys in this area know him. Former Richmond Spider Hall of Famer, has his number 14 in the rafters at the Robbins Center, A-10 Player of the Year in 2010, and a former deep run stander who hit the game-winning shot in the Atlantic Sun Final, Georgie Pacheco Ortiz from deep run. He's also on that team. So
cool.
To me, we were talking about this in the newsroom, I feel, and I'm not saying this because we cover these teams, for Liberty and Virginia Tech, both from that Roanoke Lynchburg area, have to fly 3,000 miles cross country, both playing on a Friday in San Jose.
Right. Liberty
gets Mississippi State, and Virginia Tech gets St. Louis. I'm surprised not one of them stayed in the East Coast. Both have to go to San Jose and play, and if they both win, they would face each other in the second round.
Luckily for both of them, their opponents also have to travel, maybe not quite as far, but a little bit of travel there. Let's talk about that Virginia Tech matchup with St. Louis. Obviously a hot team after what we saw them do in the A-10 tournament.
Yes.
That's always a difficult kind of matchup, that 4-13, similar to the 5-12 with Mississippi State and Liberty, but kind of reversing roles there. What do you think about Tech, and what do you think about their chances to make a run in this tournament? Especially, I hear they're getting some firepower back, maybe.
They get some firepower, and to me, that's the reason why I think, I'm going out on a limb.
Hot takes.
They could make the Sweet 16
wow.
in that region because of Justin Robertson, the young man who missed almost a month and a half, almost 2 months, with an injured foot he suffered in late January. They were 17-3 when he was in the lineup. They were 12-7 when he was out the lineup. The positive that they did have an above 500 record when Robinson was not in the lineup. You saw the guys step up. Nikhil Alexander-Walker had a big year down the stretch. Kerry Blackshear played huge down the stretch for Virginia Tech. Ahmed Hill, Ty Outlaw, guys like that may not have gotten more shot attempts if Robinson was on the floor. They stepped up and played well. Robinson coming into this lineup, hopefully fresh. Hopefully there's no lingering effects from the foot injury.
Yeah.
If he is close to being 100%, they're going to the Sweet 16.
Do you think because of all that experience those other guys got while he was out, that is the biggest factor for Tech moving in if he is in fact healthy?
I think so because they showed that they had two guys that, if necessary, they could take over games late. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, he had a big game against Florida State in an overtime loss in the quarterfinals. Kerry Blackshear, he hit some big shots as well against the Seminoles in the game, and he also played well in the first round win against Miami down in the ACC tournament, as did Ty Outlaw. Now, he didn't do a lot against Florida State, but he had 14 points in that win against Miami. That was huge in their victory over the Canes. So guys did step up for Virginia Tech. They didn't fold when Justin Robinson went out of the game, went out of the lineup.
Right.
But he's a difference maker. Like I said, 17-3 when he was in there. 17-3, and they were above 500 when he got out of the lineup.
Right.
That would be huge.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with them moving forward, and then that could be an interesting All-Virginia matchup possibly there in the second round in the East bracket. Moving on, number 1 seed, number 2 seed overall, right?
The second number 1 seed
the second
as far as the
seed.
Rankings were concerned.
Everyone remembers what happened last year.
Yes.
Everyone in Charlottesville, everyone in the nation. You can't get away from it. But at the same time, how do you like how this bracket shapes up for them? I know Gardner-Webb, obviously 16 seed. Who knows what happens
the Big
there?
South, they're reaching their NCAA. This is making their NCAA debut. They have been a Division II school for a number of years. They come into the Division I ranks, and then they beat Radford in the Big South final to reach their first NCAA tournament.
Big ask to take down these Who's, though. All that veteran leadership and an NBA player in DeAndre Hunter.
It's a complete 360 from what we saw last year. Because last year, no DeAndre Hunter. A lot of people really thought they were going to make the Final Four and win a national championship. Hunter's healthy, no broken thumb like in the ACC tournament final last year. And you hear a lot of people saying they may not be able to do what they could do a year ago. They're hungry. They've heard the talk the entire year. They will probably hear it in the first round of this year's tournament. They heard it in the ACC tournament when it was back at the place where they lost in the first round at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte. Hunter is going to make the difference. To me, I think the X factor is going to be Ty Jerome. He had a horrible shooting 2 nights in the ACC tournament. He was, I think, 5 for 24 or 5 of 25 down in Charlotte in the ACC tournament. He only had 2 points in their win in the quarterfinals against NC State. They still was able to get the victory, but he only had 2 points. Horrible shooting night. To me, he's going to be the X factor. We think Hunter is going to play well. We think Kyle Guy is going to play well. Jerome has got to play well to be that third scorer, because if not, what we saw against Florida State with the length. If they face somebody they like to go up tempo and they have the length like a Florida State, it could be problems for UVA. But if those three guys score and you get any help from Salt, Huff, Key, and Clark, they can make a long run in this year's tournament.
You mentioned those big athletic teams. I'm going to take my journalist hat off and put my UT Vols hat on here for a second. Because I'm a big Vols fan.
Over there?
They're lurking down there on that 2-line. Big athletic, like to play fast. We'll see. Excited about my Vols, even if they got the doors beat off of them today down there at the SEC title game. Also on that side of the bracket, though, another Virginia school, another 3-14 matchup. Old Dominion playing Purdue. Purdue has a point guard. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's a really good player, possible All-American. How do you think ODU, who won close to 30 games, right?
Yeah, it was like 27, I believe, 28 victories. They won the Conference USA Championship. It was their first conference title since joining the league in 2013. First time back in the dance since 2011. I mentioned those 5 teams in 2011.
Right.
Old Dominion was one that made it that year and are back in the field this year. I'm surprised they got a 14 seed. If you look at their non-conference schedule this year, they had good wins. They went to Syracuse and beat Syracuse, who were in the field as an AC. They beat VCU at home, come back from double digits to beat a VCU team. They've got good non-conference wins this year. They went through Conference USA. They got 3 wins against Western Kentucky to win the Conference USA Championship. And for them to get a 14 seed, I was pretty surprised that they were that low. It's their lowest seed in almost 3 decades.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they were a 15 seed back in 92, a 14 seed, and you win a conference championship. I'm really surprised that they're that low.
Do you ever wonder that maybe the committee puts a team like Old Dominion, who maybe deserved a little bit of a higher seed, and matches them up at that 14 line with a team like Purdue, who had a good year but also struggled near the end of the season?
They do.
Who was competing maybe for a 2 seed at one point.
They were, and at one point there was even talk of a 1 seed because they were that good in the Big Ten.
Right.
They're 2 teams that you think, okay, midway in the season, a lot of expectations. There were some stumbles along the way. They're 2 teams that really feel that maybe they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. Purdue's probably thinking we probably deserved a 2 at one point, maybe a 1. Old Dominion is probably saying, hey, we're better than a 14 seed because you look on the other half of that bracket, 6-11. St. Mary's struggled in the West Coast Conference. They beat Gonzaga in the championship game. They get an 11 seed. Old Dominion gets a 14 seed. That's where I'm thinking there's a little bit of a surprise. But for Old Dominion, you got B.J. Stith, Conference USA Player of the Year. Jeff Jones, a lot of people around this area know him very well from his time at UVA, leading the Cavs to the Elite 8. He also won Coach of the Year in that conference in the ACC. Also won it with American University as well. I think he's one of several coaches in the country that can boast that he's won Coach of the Year with 3 different teams in 3 different conferences. And he's dealing with cancer as well. He was very emotional after winning the Conference USA Championship. So for him to deal with all of that and also lead Old Dominion back into the NCAA tournament, that's a great story for Jeff Jones and the job he did at Old Dominion with the Monarchs. Brian Stith, an assistant, great UVA legend up there too. And like I said, his son, also a local product, Jason Wade from Trinity Episcopal, is on that team too. First year there, and they go to the NCAAs.
Well, we're wishing all of our Virginia teams well as they move forward in this bracket. Hopefully move forward in this bracket.
Yes.
So my man Nick's back there. Nick, he's looking at some of the comments. Anybody got any questions for Sean here?
We have not had any questions so far, but Withrow is hashtag Tar Heel Gang. Rick is rooting for VCU. Christopher says Wahoo. Lee is rooting for the Hokies. And Care Hughes says VCU. And we have our own editor, Jacqueline Hughes, is watching the stream.
What's up, Jacqueline?
Oh, she loves Florida State, so she
must
love
got to like that.
Florida State.
3, right?
They're a 4 seed in the West. They play Vermont in the 13. That's the team again. I talked about their length. Nichols, the point guard, the backup point guard, played very, very well in the second half against UVA in their win in the semifinals. You got Terrence Mann that can shoot up. They've got a lot of length. They've got a lot of athleticism. The matchup, the brackets shape up for them to make a Sweet 16 run in the West. And they could see Gonzaga in the Sweet 16 because to me, I say maybe Gonzaga and Virginia probably have the favorable draws as a 1 seed. To me, Carolina's got a tough draw.
Oh, yeah,
as a
yeah.
top
Utah
seed.
State's a really good team.
And
Washington
then-
played well in the Pac-12. Auburn is so hot right now.
Auburn
man.
winning the SEC, and
Kansas, you never know.
Even though they struggled in the Big 12, not winning the regular season championship for the first time in 15 years,
Yep.
they're still Kansas, and you still got that connection. Roy Williams going against the team that he coached
Right.
For a long time, took them to a national championship game as well.
Right.
And then you look on the bottom half of the draw, you got Iowa State. They're rolling after winning
Oh,
the
yeah.
Big 12 postseason championship. You got Wofford. A lot of people think they can make a run, and you got Kentucky. Kentucky could be that team. I know they have a lot of youth, but it's tournament time. And John Calipari, whether you like him or don't like him, whether you like his recruiting off the court, the man can flat out coach in the postseason.
You always hear this too. These freshmen that are in with Kentucky right now.
Yeah.
They have a couple sophomores, but the freshmen with Kentucky right now. By the time you get to this point in the season, you're not a freshman anymore. You are now a legit leader on the team, or you should be. Someone that can compete on the court.
And
So that's
Calipari has
interesting.
been there, done that in this one-game winner-take-all situation. He can flat out coach in the NCAA tournament, so I would not overlook Kentucky in that bracket.
I know you probably haven't had a chance to fully digest the whole thing, and I always wait a couple days before I fill out my bracket completely.
Yeah.
But looking at the Virginia schools and the matchups that they got and the brackets that they're in, is there one, maybe outside of UVA, who's obviously the 1 seed, that you think might have a chance to make a Sweet 16 run, other than UVA, who seems to have a pretty favorable matchup all the way to there?
Well, like we said earlier, I think Tech.
Yeah.
I think Tech, with Justin Robertson healthy, you're going to see how he plays early against St. Louis. But if he's got that explosion coming off of that foot injury that he's been sitting out for almost 2 months, if that explosion is there, Tech is dangerous because they were sensational when he was in the lineup and everybody was healthy. And if they can get past St. Louis, you got a Mississippi State Liberty matchup.
What do you think about that one? I mean, Mississippi State's big, athletic, but they kind of
Yeah.
struggle from deep sometimes.
Yeah.
And Liberty, I know. I mean, they
Liberty
got
can
some players.
shoot. Liberty can shoot, no question about it. And they got a good post player as well. And I want to say his last name was Clark. And I know probably somebody that's on Facebook is probably going to tell me it's not Clark. But I do remember him because he was huge down the stretch for Liberty in that win against Lipscomb before Georgie hit that three-point shot. He hit some big shots as well. So they've got some size, they've got the shooters, and they've got a winning pedigree on the bench. Like I said, McKay, he's done it before as an assistant with UVA. Kevin Anderson as a player with Richmond. They've got the pedigree. Those 5-12 matchups, I would say maybe you mark a Liberty as one of that. There's always at least one. That could be that one, and it would be interesting if a Roanoke-Lynchburg matchup in the second round, which would guarantee that area having a team in the Sweet 16. But just right now, I think Tech, to me, that's a Sweet 16 squad if Robinson is fully healthy from that injury.
Well, you know what? One thing I know for sure is we got to get ready for the 11 o'clock show.
Well, we do
but
have one
more
quick
so-
question just for
sorry.
Sean. With Robinson coming back, how far do you see Virginia Tech going, beating Duke in the Sweet 16?
And I looked at that. If everything plays out.
Beat him once already,
they
right?
beat him once already, and I want to say Robinson was in the lineup
Yeah, I think you're right.
when Duke lost to Tech in Blacksburg in January. It was, I think, a 3 to 5 point loss for Duke. That could be interesting.
Duke
Sweet
was fully
16.
healthy in that game too, if I remember correctly. Zion definitely was, but maybe Trey Jones is still out.
Yeah,
but-
I think they were fully healthy, and that would be great because it would be in the nation's capital. It would be
and the
at
district.
the old phone booth, the old MCI Center up in DC. But that would be a Sweet 16 matchup. Everything play out, but VCU fans are saying, "Hold up,
Yeah, right. Pump
hold
the
up, wait
brakes.
what about us? They could pull off the upset, but that could be interesting if
The way
it
they
all
move
plays
the ball,
out.
that'd be interesting to see that VCU matchup with Duke.
Yeah.
Just whipping it around like they have been.
And we have one quick thing from Jazzy Fresh Hooks. It says hashtag Gator Nation. Jake, where was Tennessee in the SEC?
Well, you know what? They beat Kentucky last night, and so I'm thinking what happened, they had maybe a little bit too much fun in the hotel, maybe a little bit too hyped up for that game, and then here comes Auburn. And Auburn, I'll tell you what, that 5 matchup right there, I got a feeling they're going to win that one easy. And they if they shoot like they did against Tennessee, where they were shooting, every 3 they threw up was going down, then I think they have a chance to make a Sweet 16 run. As for your Gators, they're pretty hot too right now.
Yeah. 2 quick notes I got to mention. The 2 Michigan squads that both got number 2 seeds, Michigan State and Michigan. Those are 2 dangerous teams. And you got Gonzaga and Duke as those 1 seeds. I would be a little leery if I was either one of those. Because Michigan and Michigan State can both play great defense. They can shoot. They can rebound. And you got 2 great coaches with Izzo and Beeline getting it done in the postseason. So these 2 seeds are probably the 4 the strongest 2 seeds in a while. Tennessee, Kentucky, with the pedigree of those 2, and then you got Michigan and Michigan State. And Michigan State swept in the Big Ten, regular season and postseason champs as well.
Man, it's an exciting time, man. This is the time. Enjoy filling out your brackets, folks. We obviously got a little bit
This
to
will be
think
the
about.
cleanest this bracket will look.
That's
It's
true.
all messed up
That's
in about
true.
a week.
But I think I'm going to take your tech thing to heart. I like that. I hadn't really thought about that.
Watch, and I always hear from coaches, first 5 minutes of each half are going to be very important.
Yeah.
First 5 minutes of that game against St. Louis are going to be important because if Robertson is explosive, they can have a long run in the NCAA. I would think at least a Sweet 16 if he's fully healthy.
Well, let's root for them to do that, and good luck to all those Virginia team out there. And you guys have fun watching this on CBS 6.